Welcome to the top cards of Kaladesh Standard. Standard is such an interesting and diverse format that I felt we needed to cover the top cards of all the top decks in this brand new Standard environment. So let's begin with red-white vehicles. And what's the best vehicle in Standard right now? It's Smuggler's Copter. You're gonna need a full playset of them for this amazing deck. Rakdos players rejoice because red-black aggro is now a powerful Standard deck, and the card of best value in that entire 60-card list, you guessed it, a playset of Smuggler's Copters. Old favorites like Tolarian are still highly competitive, but they've been updated with a playset of Smuggler's Copters. 4 of them. Green-white aggro also needs a playset of Smuggler's Copters. It doesn't work without them. Boros humans, Mardu, Candu, aggro, Bant midrange, blue-black Colossus, Smuggler's Copter. Can we just talk about something interesting like Pauper instead? Let's do Pauper. Never mind. We're doing Pauper. Luckily, there's a plethora of powerful Pauper cards at common, and the professor picks his top 5 for this Pauper list. And remember, Pauper is the best budget format for Magic the Gathering, and if you want to learn more about it, you should head on over to Pauper, the Pauper subreddit, for some of the best resources, links, deck lists, and all-around Pauper community. Pauper is the place to be. But before I get to the top 5 list, I have not one but 2 honorable mentions. Now, these are cards that are absolutely going to see Pauper play, but in specific decks in a very focused and, perhaps limited way. These 2 cards are Fragmentize and Fortuitous Find. Fragmentize is a white sorcery for 1 white that destroys target artifact or enchantment with converted mana cost 4 or less. Though restricted by the fact that it's white, this is an amazing card for Pauper. Considering Affinity and Tron are top decks with a lot of artifacts we want to get rid of, as well as cards like Oubliette and Mono Black Control, Fragmentize is no doubt going to see play, but again, the fact that it's in white severely limits it. Nonetheless, this is a powerful card for Pauper. Now, you might think that Fortuitous Find being in black would mean that it's accessible to a lot of decks, but actually I think this is another very restricted and focused card for Pauper. For 2 and a black, you can choose one or both. Return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand, or return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. This is amazing modal power at common, and I think the place for it is in blue-black Trinket Control, which already uses cards like Chittering Rats and Trinket Mage to lock down your opponent and tutor for situational answers. This modal spell is going to at least be a one-of in this deck, giving us the ability to restore what we need from our graveyard to our hand and continue keeping a death grip on our opponent. Alright, coming in at number 5 is a common so powerful that it is already being played in one of the top modern decks. I love this card, and it's a card all about love. Cathartic Reunion. Cathartic Reunion, of course, is a sorcery for 1 in red, which reads, as an additional cost to cast Cathartic Reunion, discard 2 cards, and then draw 3 cards, which is a shoo-in for Izzet Control. Is it? Yes, it is, because this card combos with Deep Analysis and Desperate Ravings, let alone Accumulated Knowledge and Una's Grace. To get even more card advantage, or maybe just put Jund back in the mix, combined with Pulse of Marasa and Grapple with the Past. Coming in at number 4, it's a tie. I love ties. These 2 cards are likely going to bring about an entirely brand new Pauper deck. That gets me really excited. Maybe the deck is not going to have enough steam to get there, but if it does, it's going to see a lot of play thanks specifically to these 2 vehicles. That's right, it's the common vehicles that are going to be bringing the pain train in Pauper, Renegade Freighter, and Aronda Express. Toot toot! Pauper vehicles may be a thing, using ramp and low-cost, high-power creatures like Cinderwall and more to crew vehicles like the Freighter and Express quickly. Perhaps we will even see Vent Sentinels and a Defender shell assemble to make Pauper vehicles a viable deck. Now, for our number 3 card, I am not sure if a brand new deck might emerge around it, or whether or not it's going to slip into an existing deck, but it creates a powerful Pauper combo, and that card, of course, is Workshop Assistant. Workshop Assistant can win you the game in combination with a Sack Outlet and Disciple of the Vault, assuming you have 2 Workshop Assistants. How? Well, Workshop Assistant is an artifact creature that costs 3 and reads, when Workshop Assistant dies, return another target artifact from your graveyard to your hand. So Disciple from the Vault is a 1/1 human cleric for 1 that states, whenever an artifact is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you may have target opponent lose 1 life. So if we've got a sacrifice outlet, of which there are many to choose from, especially in black, this lets us sacrifice the first Workshop Assistant, which will recur the other indefinitely, losing a major loss of life for our opponents and winning us the game. As usual, our number 2 and our number 1 cards are very closely tied. They can easily be swapped around. They are making the top of many Pauper top lists. For number 2, I am placing the card with affinity itself. That's right, Gear Seeker Serpent. Gear Seeker Serpent has affinity for artifacts. Yes, it does. Even though it isn't keyworded, this card has affinity. Oh, and affinity is one of the top decks in Pauper. Gear Seeker Serpent is a 5/6 Serpent for 5 and 2 blue, which costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control. As an added bonus, for 5 and 1 blue, Gear Seeker Serpent can't be blocked this turn. This thing takes out Gurmag Angler and lives, a powerfully relevant ability for late game. Angler has been the unstoppable monster of Pauper since its introduction, and getting a built-in answer to it for an already dominant deck is either the biggest imbalance mistake that R&D has ever made for Pauper since the reprinting of Drake at Common, or perhaps a calculated hit job against mono-black control. You be the judge. And the number 1 most powerful card in Pauper is another tie. That's right. There's not 1, but 2 most powerful cards for Pauper from Kaladesh, and that is because these 2 cards work so amazingly well together. Can you think of which 2 red cards are common and are going to really burn into Pauper? That's right, it's Reckless Fireweaver and Salivating Gremlins. These play amazing, almost perfectly well with one another in decks with artifact lands, or just artifact-heavy decks such as Tron. And besides Tron, we already mentioned another top deck, didn't we? Affinity. While far from the only Pauper deck to work synergistically with these 2 cards, their inclusion here is going to be making the Grubby Gremlins and Flaming Fireweaver 2 cards that you'll be seeing in a lot of tournament results. I hope very much this video has been of some help to you, and if you want more help in Pauper, then go check out our Pauper. Huge shout out to the mods over there. In fact, huge shout out to the entire our Pauper community, one of the most welcoming and awesome communities for Magic the Gathering. If you want to play in the best budget format there is, go check out our Pauper today. And remember that this video, like all my videos, is only made possible thanks to generous support of our patron alums over at Patreon. If you want to help Tolarian Community College keep going and growing strong, head on over to patreon.com today. Thank you.